Because that's the next question now, right? Where is Maria going to go? We're going to look back in history, and not to say that history is going to repeat itself. It never does, right? But we certainly can learn something by looking back at past storms. So let's bring in our tropical replay. And I want to talk about where Maria is right now. It is sitting off the coast of the Dominican Republic, and we are continuing to see it track in that northwest direction. So it made a landfall yesterday as a Category 4 in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico had only had 4 previous Cat 4 landfalls. The previous one actually in 1932, so it had certainly been a significant amount of time. Going back in history and looking at all Puerto Rico hurricane landfalls, there's been 15 of them going back to 1851. We're going to pull out 2 in particular and take a look at how the track ensued after the Puerto Rico landfall. So let's go back to Hurricane Hugo, a Category 5 at its peak. This was in 1989. And for residents of St. Croix, certainly that's your storm of record, right? That's the one that you remember and probably still have some signs of it around, maybe even today. So in Puerto Rico, it was significant. It made a landfall, moved out over the northern part of the island, like we have seen happen with Maria as well. And then Hugo went on to make a landfall as a Category 4 just north of Charleston, South Carolina. This one, a significant hurricane for the U.S. coast, and especially just north of Florida, one of the largest and most intense on record. Now, we want to take a look at another one, though, the 1893 hurricane that was a Cat 3 that affected Puerto Rico as well. So this one had a different track. It came in a somewhat similar fashion, coming through the Leeward Islands, affecting Puerto Rico, affecting the Virgin Islands as well. But then when we saw it move just to the east of the Bahamas, like we are expecting to happen again with Maria, this time in 1893, this particular hurricane did not make a landfall on the mainland U.S. You can see the track that it took at that time, moving out over the Atlantic around that ridge of high pressure, which is, of course, the track that we are all hoping Maria will take, keeping it off the coast of the U.S. I want to talk about our track, actually. So let me show you real quick our track of Hurricane Maria. This track, again, keeping it off the coast of the DR. We are getting impacts, but we're not getting the core. We're going to see it likely move just to the east of the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas, but still creating impacts there. But then, Steph, the most probable track is for it to stay off the eastern seaboard. But it's not a guarantee for this. And through the morning, we'll talk about options as to why that is fall. And I'm watching the satellite, and they're still in Puerto Rico underneath those intense rain bands all day and even into the overnight. We're just starting to get somewhat of relief, but not completely. You can see we still have some of those outer bands still affecting us on the western side of the island. Here's where Maria is right now, and you can see it is pulling away, and the winds at least have calmed down in Puerto Rico. You can see what a large eye, and Steph was just talking about this, about 60 miles across. We don't have a measurement right now from the hurricane hunters, but we're measuring just using satellite and estimating a very large eye. The wind field certainly has increased in size, not necessarily in strength, but in size compared to the way it was when it made landfall yesterday as a Category 4. Here's where we are right now. Some gusty winds here, the north coast of the DR, 72 miles per hour, Punta Cana. Right now, gusting to 45. I've seen it higher than that, though. Last hour, we're gusting about 57 or 58. So as we look at the forecast for today and watch that core where the strongest of winds are, and the strongest of the hurricane force winds do extend out about 60 miles from the center. So you go about 120 miles across. As we watch the forecast today, that core is going to stay off the coast of the DR. How close does it get to the Turks and Caicos and the southeast Bahamas? Well, in particular, the Turks and Caicos here, those eastern islands are the ones that are going to be at most risk of seeing the hurricane force conditions, and the surge for all of them are going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue. 9 to 12 feet surge is possible there, especially for those east-facing beaches, and then we'll be watching it into the away from land in the Atlantic Ocean right there. Again, Kelly, surge today 9 to 12 for the Turks and Caicos, still 4 to 6 feet for the northern coast of the DR.
Steph?
So what islands will Maria affect after it leaves the Dominican Republic? Well, the Turks and Caicos, and then we have the Bahamas here. So this has a look at the winds. I really think it's the Turks and Caicos that will get the...
I think so, too. You look at the large wind field, and we've taken the storm through the center of the cone, and if it does that, you can see how the tropical storm force winds at least get us in the Turks and Caicos, maybe southeast Bahamas.
And some surf as well. I think that will be the
surge will be an issue there.
Well, the Bahamas stretch for hundreds of miles. By the way, there are 700 islands that make up the Bahamas, making the country a very easy target for storms.
Meteorologist Chris Warren looks at the Bahamas hurricane. Look at this forecast here, getting into the weekend in view. So we are looking at a pretty potent big system in the west here. It's actually a big, deep trough that's brought enough cold air to get some snow going in the mountains. We're watching that. And on the other side of it, we've got a big ridge and a lot of heat. Chicago, look at your first day of fall. 92 degrees. The heat stretch continues there. We keep it at 90 on Saturday, warming up into the 80s in the northeast. In the southeast, you'll see some showers and storms, as well as temperatures in the 80s. But for now, no influence of hurricanes on that forecast, looking good into Sunday as well. All right, coming up, we will have continuing coverage, a full tropical update, including an update on Maria.